Hey everybody, I'm Jody Vance.
Yeah, I'm George-Affleck.
And oh boy, do we have an episode for you. I wonder if we'll talk about the
Hmm.
election in the United States, but I do know we'll talk about how it impacts Canada. And then we're going to talk about what is happening with vote counting in BC.
Ooh. All that and more on UnSpun. Okay, so I was wrong. I was
You
wrong.
were kind of really right.
Uh,
I thought you were wronger. I thought you were way wrong. And I was wrongest. I was wrong. I don't, I
and,
don't know.
and my little buddy was wrong. So he was
Right?
devastated. I was
Alan
watching him.
Lichtman, you let us down, Alan. We
Oh,
were
he's
like, I was,
so he's a poor guy. I was watching
I,
him. He was so sad.
and oh now I always get his name wrong. The guy that always wears the baseball cap, Carville.
Oh
Carville.
yeah, yeah.
He's like, this is a haven't heard from him. So here I am, and I totally did not see this coming. I didn't, and not because I have a huge political bent. I just could not have imagined tens of millions of Americans thinking this was the best possible idea. I was wrong. And America voted, and democracy reigned supreme. And now you get Donald Trump, and you get to see if all of his promises come to fruition. And,
Yeah.
for the sake of the United States, I hope so.
Yeah, it's well, he said he was going to build a wall and he built 20 kilometers of it that basically gave a lot of his friends cash. But it's a new kind of administration. He's got a much more organization than he did last time. He obviously ran a good campaign. I think it came down to this issue of pocketbook politics, right?
Yeah, oh,
He
for sure.
understood that you can spend a bill, as a marketing person, I said this actually at a meeting I just came from. You can spend $1 billion on ads, but if you don't understand what your audience wants, it's not going to resonate. It's not going to convert sales. And Donald Trump understood what his customer wanted and sold that product, which was you. Even if it wasn't true, but if it wasn't true, he understood what they were upset about, which was their inflation, their pocketbook, which is a term I hate, pocketbook, but it's like 1845, my pocketbook. And then crime, really. I mean, the fact that and the whole, borders closing, all that stuff's really related to
I
the.
was just going to say, you and I in America, I'm sitting in America right now. And let me tell you, you wouldn't even know there was an election here in Southern California where I'm sitting right now. Literally would not know. I've traveled on election day. I've been to the Target. I've been to the Trader Joe's, obviously, because I'm setting up for my
Yeah.
little mini vacay. And nobody. Maybe it's because it's all Canadians down here, but the degree to which people in my hometown, so Metro Vancouver, Vancouver proper, versus Palm Springs, Canadians are way more concerned and might I even say more knowledgeable about US politics, which I find both shocking and at the moment quite relieving because I'm
Yeah,
exhausted. I don't know, are you exhausted by this? I'm exhausted.
100%. Hundred
Yeah.
percent. Not even looking at news. I've consumed a little bit of media for the purpose of this podcast, but I kind of taking a break. There are a couple
Yeah.
of things that I kind of that have come out. So Alan Lichtman's going to do his it's Thursday. He's going to do his podcast tonight, his live with his son. He does this. It's a good, they do a little good. They were live on election night, and I was kind of flipping between that and all the
I
regular
missed
TV
that.
stations and he's 77 years old, so by midnight he's in the East Coast. It was 3 in the morning and he was like literally like but and you could see he was devastated. I think, and we talked about this, and he's got this thing called keys. I kind of always thought there was a couple of the keys that I thought were it's strange. The one was like incumbency, right? And I've heard a lot about that since Donald Trump won. Who was the real incumbent here? Was it
Right.
Trump or was it Kamala? I always felt like it was more Trump was the incumbent because Kamala was the vice president. So, and that's kind of what's coming
Totally.
out now. And then there's the two other keys, which were geopolitical politics and wars, and he gave them one each. And I thought, I don't know. I would say both those. Like he gave the positive and negative. Yeah, I think they're both negative. There are two wars happening that weren't happening before. So I think that's what he'll
Yeah, I
talk
was
about
going to say
tonight.
more than that even.
Yeah,
Only a couple make the headlines because they're so swamped by politics in the
yeah,
United States, right? So, but you and I
yeah.
both, I mean, I will continue to stay fully engaged in politics on a global scale as well as, the hard local. because of this podcast, frankly. I mean, because you and I having this conversation, you've been very on the mark all the way along here and likely will continue to do so, George-Affleck, all the way through to what will be a very complex federal election that is no doubt coming down the pipe. But before we turn the corner to focus on Canadian politics more specifically, what do you see happening in the United States? Is it bluster? Was it bro talk, rallying the base to talk about, rounding up migrants and rounding up people who are legally in the United States and putting them into camps and deporting them? Like, what do you think of that? Of all the things, like, you and I will not be hugely impacted by this because we are Canadians. We're,
Tariffs.
upper middle class. If you look at the global community, we're white people. Like, I worry about my, LGBTQ2S plus, my people of color, my people in marginalized communities who are now sitting there going, oh, what is going to happen next?
It's well, I think a couple of things that occurred to me sort of after the fact, and I don't know why I didn't think of this from a data point of view, but Elon Musk kind of jumped on the wagon a few weeks ago, really hardcore with Trump.
Yeah.
And I thought, well, what impact that seems like a negative for Trump in a lot of ways. People hate Elon right now for a lot of reasons. But then I realized after he won and Joe Rogan jumped on board. But here's a guy, and by the way, just came out, I saw a tweet that Twitter is now the #1 news source in Canada, just so you know, or X. But here's the guy who owns X. He has complete access to all the data he wants. He must have known when we saw those exit polls in the US for how bad Biden was rated at 60% dissatisfaction.
Right.
That is a hard hill to climb for
Anybody.
anybody to win, even in Kamala. So, he knew that because he would have had that kind of data through his access to all this data on X, because all the conversations, whatever data you wanted to look at, you could look at it at any given time. So he knew because of his data that he had access to as an owner of X at that time, that unbelievable that this was going to be a huge victory, and that's what he said. And he must have been coming from the data. So that was the one thing. And now we have this guy who's the richest man in the world in the Oval Office with the president, along with a couple of other billionaires, making the decisions, which is quite a bit different than the last time when Trump won, which was a bunch of, orangutan, crazy people and
ragtag, I think is what you're looking for there. Ragtag. There you go, orangutan.
Orangutans.
Yeah, good one, George. You're just trying to make me laugh.
That would be Trump itself.
But did you see the stat about Elon Musk, Jeff Bezos, and frankly other billionaires like the Bill Gates, who didn't endorse anybody, but the ones, how much money was made in one day? Like
through the stock market after.
Yeah. Some like $265 billion or like some crazy number.
If you had Tesla and crypto, you were like living the dream the next morning. So I think that it was interesting. I think what this also was, obviously people are upset with the woke left that if it had been Bernie Sanders running for the Democrats, or he was, and even no matter what you feel about Bernie Sanders, he was touching on something in 2016 and 2020 that Trump also was touching on. The people, this dissatisfaction with the system, and that's what Sanders is all about. And so I wonder if they'd had a candidate like him, the Democrats, a disruptor, how they would have done. All the working class people would have gone, yeah, that's my guy, because that's who gave Trump the victory here. The working class Americans of all ethnicities and genders. And so, the fact to see that every single county basically in America, she lost, and when below Biden and below Clinton, it was shocking how badly she lost. It is unbelievable. Nobody, I mean, it's just and I think it's a reset a lot of politics perhaps in America. That's why maybe the keys didn't work. We got, you had FD and this influence of Trump is 12 years is going to be now. He had 12 years of influence by the end of this term of Trump.
And it can be way beyond that, because with all levels of government going Republican, there are no balances, right? There's no checks and balances. It's just, this is what's happening. We don't even need to talk about it. I'm just going to do this. This is what's happening now. I said so, therefore it will be. And that's like, whoa, okay.
It's crazy.
I
And
wouldn't want any side to have that kind of path. You know, it's interesting to witness. And you know what? This is where we're
wow.
living. And somebody said to me pre-election night, and it was a young person who basically acknowledged that their entire adult life, because they're in their early 20s or mid 20s, said, I've never known anything but chaos.
And Trump on a ballot if you live in America, 3 terms now, 12
Right.
years.
Right.
So
So,
it's
you know,
weird.
kids that were 14 that are now 26 are like, is happening? Like, you adults cannot. So we'll see how the pendulum swings. But boy,
This is
I'm
what
like I
America
said off the
wanted.
hop, I was super wrong. It is, George. And that's the only thing that brings me calm. It's like, hey, you know what? If this is what you want, um, so be it. Does talk about the 105 million Americans who did not, registered voters who did not vote,
He won
that
the
did
popular
not
vote.
vote,
Oh
right?
yeah, 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 yeah.
That
And
did not vote.
I think that was the most surprising. The fact that we thought there was going to be this surge of women, and it didn't happen. Didn't happen.
Yeah, the surge of women was there. Just the white women went for Trump.
Yep.
When it
But the
got broken
whites,
down, it was
college,
white men and white women, and that speaks to again the MSG um, rally that we all thought was horrifying. Most of us, sorry, I shouldn't say we all, but we definitely talked about it being like, wow, what did we just see there? The dog whistles and the racism, like the overt like misogyny. There's just so much of it that was just like, wow, that's awful. And then that actually really worked.
and
So
now we have. I just saw there was a tweet with Robert F. Kennedy Jr. now in charge of healthcare. A guy,
yeah,
an anti-vaxxer, is in charge of healthcare in America. I mean, his first
yeah,
thing's talking about sugar. I saw him doing a tweet there about sugar because I just came back from Spain, and in Spain they charge you if you want to buy Coca-Cola with sugar in it, you pay extra. In Spain,
sure.
I think it's or all of Europe
A
maybe
sugar tax. We've
sugar
talked about that
tax,
a million times in
and I think
Canada.
that's what he's.
It's like
Yeah,
putting a tax on cigarettes. You put a tax on sugar. But this man also wants to take away the mandatory childhood vaccination to be in a public school situation. That is going to create, just ask any scientist. Like, we're going to have a return of measles, mumps, rubella, chicken pox, maybe even smallpox, like we polio. We're talking about like diseases that we kick to the curb will now be putting societies at risk. And
essentially.
talk to any scientist, it's just like, wow, okay, okay.
I
I
wonder how
don't know.
long he'll. I wonder how long he'll last though. Once they reapprove the pipeline to Canada, and
Mm,
then he'll be like, "Hold on, wait a minute. I can't be a part of an administration that starts dismantling all the environmental structure that's been built up for a generation.
maybe,
How's he going to
maybe
cross that T and dot that I, Robert?"
money,
Yeah, well,
money.
and power.
Yeah,
So
power, drunk with it. But you know what? Again, we go back to it. We're going to keep talking about it here on the podcast. It's really important to do that. We're 13 minutes in. It seems like a proper time to pivot. Do you want to come all the way home to BC, or do you want to start in federal politics? Because how does the reaction
oh,
from Justin Trudeau and who deals better? I saw that move on Twitter as well. Like, who will deal with the Trump administration better, Mark Carney or Pierre Poilievre? Like, somebody like moved Trump or moved Trudeau right out of the conversation. What do you
I
see
don't think
happening?
anybody will be able to handle Trump for Canada. He's a Trump only cares about America. He's already said he's going to dismantle and renegotiate the free trade agreement that he approved in his last
Right.
term. Um,
USMC, whatever, blah, blah.
yeah, the tariffs he
It
talked.
used to be a North America free trade agreement, but we had to change it so the US was first. I remember
Yeah,
that.
I saw the tariffs obviously are going to have a huge impact. I saw actually a tweet from an American company, a person that were an American company talking
Yeah.
about the tariffs today, saying their boss just told them that he can't give them any Christmas bonuses because he's got to use the cash to buy a bunch of Canadian products that they use to build their products in America. Because before the tariffs come in, because he can't pay that extra 10 or 15 or percent that's
Right.
tariffs. So he's taking all the cash that he has to buy these things in advance. So the staff, all these working class and Canadian Americans are already getting hit by this. But that's gonna, I mean, if you sell products into America, you don't get in. You make this assumption like, well, that they're paying it. But of course, what happens is they just reduce their purchasing, so that reduces the volume, yada yada
Yeah.
yada. So you end up seeing a
I
real.
got this. I got a newbie. I got
Oh
a
yeah.
brand spanking new one. Came in a box from China. I ordered
Yes.
it from Apple Canada. It came from a box from China. So if
Right.
everything from China gets a 40% increase, you order from
American.
Apple.
Right. I wonder how that would work for Canada. It might create a whole black market for Americans coming up to Canada, purchase things and sneak them across the border, especially things like phones and where
And
we
when the
don't have the
dollar,
tariffs.
you
Yeah.
save with the dollar, and then you save on the tariffs, and all of a sudden the border guards are less worried about what you're wearing on your feet when you're coming north. It's more about
Yes.
what do you got in your pocket when you're going south.
That's right. And what are you
Hmm.
driving potentially? Yeah.
Right.
So, but I think that it's going to be very, very challenging for. It doesn't matter if it's Trump or if it's Trudeau or Polyev
Trudeau.
or whoever. It's going to be a tough negotiation
Right.
with their decision to be focused on national interest before international. And if
Right.
I don't know if you saw the tweet from Ukraine's president, but he's like
Yeah.
basically 5 minutes after, "Hey, buddy," it's like,
Well,
"Hey,
yeah.
it was a
I
great
mean,
meeting we
trying
had
to
in
say, I
September."
hope, yeah. And a lot of people are talking about perhaps I saw Adam Kinzinger, the former senator who is, the hard, staunch Republican who has been literally campaigning for the Democrats because he thinks Trump is so dangerous, saying, President Biden should immediately support Volodymyr Zelensky in air level attacks to give him a position to even bargain with Putin. I know, which is very scary. But do you think, this is one more question, do you think President Biden pardons his son?
No, I don't
No,
think
you don't
so.
think so?
No, I don't think I think he's probably saying to his son, "You should have been that way." I think
Yeah.
he's a typical parent. Sorry, like you laid your bed. I think you got to lie in it, and that would be. I don't think that would be very tainting his history as a politician in America. I mean, I can't. That's pretty important to him, his legacy, and this will obviously has an impact on it. It's funny with Trudeau here. I feel like that's the only reason he's hanging on is because of his dad, and his dad did a certain period of time and was in office, and he's just trying to beat him or at least match him. The
It's
wrong
wild.
reasons to be in politics. It's when it's time to go, it's time to go. And 10 years in Canada is about
Yeah.
enough. Meanwhile, in BC, will we have an NDP
Okay.
government for 10 years? Because I'm so confused right now.
Can we? I cannot believe after all of the election, it's rigged. Apparently, it's not rigged when your side wins. To all the people in the United States who were really pissed off about the rigging that was definitely happening with the vote counting and whatnot. But
Right.
BC, here we are in British Columbia in what was the tightest election in, my memory, coming down to just a handful of votes. And then a week after everything's finally decided, it's like, oh, this box.
Oh my
It's
God,
like,
so bad. So bad. Like,
how do we know there are more boxes? And I'm not a conspiracy theorist. Like, what? What?
I mean, the investigation of this has to be deep, and this has to never happen again. There has to be proof that this won't. There's got to be checks and balances that this doesn't happen again.
But we all believe that there was checks and balances in place so that this would never happen. The fact that it is happening now makes it just almost impossible to dial it back. It
Yeah. So,
feeds an already
yep,
ravenous base of people who just have no confidence in government.
yep. And I don't know what to say. And in fact, we're in limbo still. Then because of this, we're just waiting
Are
now.
we, right?
Yeah. So we'll just. I mean, do we have
I
a
haven't seen the
minority? Do we
list.
have a
I don't.
majority? What's happening?
Last I heard, it wouldn't change the result of the election, but how
Wouldn't you
can
be
that?
skeptical about that? I would be
I
like,
am skeptical. I
yeah.
am skeptical about it. I'm almost as skeptical as an orangutan, a
Having
ragtag.
having been a candidate several times and had to deal with a wrath of elections BC for one little expense item that was on my documents for a lunch or something. I can't remember what it was like something, and I gave them multiple pieces of whatever proof, and two
Yeah.
years they were basically harassing me, not me actually, my financial agent. It was crazy what they were doing. I'm like, meanwhile, it was like,
Meanwhile, back at the ranch.
yeah, like
But see that
priorities,
that
guys.
takes me to even on taxes, like or parking tickets. Like they'll come for you at a parking ticket, hard, whatever the level or layer of government. So I'm like, you pick your entity.
Yeah.
If they can come and at you, But oh, whoops.
Yeah,
Like,
I know. It's crazy. I think the thing that was like meter parking for volunteers or something. They needed proof. And I said, it's meter parking. I can't. What,
there is no receipt.
they
Sorry
just
about
gave,
that last
yeah,
sorry about that last
like,
statement that I made. It was highly performative. If you want to know what I said, you'll have to go watch us on UnSpun on our YouTube channel. Because it was just fully just body language. That's where I'm at right now. I landed on my vacation and immediately got a head cold. Thank you for that.
vacation is key. I think, and we started this podcast, and we can kind of wrap it up with this. I think what's important for all of our psychology,
Psyche.
our psyche, our good health is
Yeah.
to let America do its thing and
Yep.
don't watch any of the national newscasts from America for a while because they're just going to be obsessed with Trump.
Yeah.
And it's going to give you anxiety if you are not a Trump supporter. If you love Trump, well, even if you hate Trump, it doesn't matter because it's going to be all Trump. So it's either you're going to hate the way they're slamming Trump, or you're just going to, if you hate Trump, they're going to be talking to Trump. So it's just all Trump for the next 4 years on all those broadcast channels in America. So if you don't
I'm
want
checking
to,
all of those boxes 100%. I
yeah,
am. And actually, here on vacation, see that TV over my shoulder right there?
yeah,
There is no cable.
off. Oh, really? So you
I
got
can watch Netflix.
some old DVDs and that underneath there to plug in, and that's all you got.
I got Netflix. I got Disney.
Okay.
I got Apple TV. I can
I
Ted
think
Lasso
that's
all
the
over
way to
again
go.
and make myself feel better.
That's the way to go. I think, yeah, and and guess what, everybody? Just tune into Unspun every week. We'll give you what you
That's
need
right.
to know. We'll give you
Yeah,
what you need to know.
this week is just sort of a reset. It's like, George, you were very on the money, as close to correct as you could have been on following along. You've always said, I think he might win again. I mean, he might not, but he might. It's too close to call. You've been there, and I've been on the other side going, oh, you're such a conservative.
It was only in the
And you
last
know
two
what?
weeks where I thought,
You were
got it.
right, and
Yeah,
I was wrong. And I am a passionately empathetic person. I want to take care of the people around me. I worry. I don't have a stake in the game. And I must have blocked every troll because I'm not getting attacked on social media. I've got friends, particularly women, who are on radio or in the media at some level, and they woke up to full inboxes of vitriol, just unprompted. How about this
really.
stuff? And it's like, you know what? Everybody's got to take a step back, take a minute, we got to be there for one another, no matter what your party stripe. And people want to say Canada's next. It's like, okay. I mean, okay,
You know, the best
okay.
way to avoid watching politics on TV and is to actually become a politician.
Oh, is that right?
Because you're so busy doing the work, you don't
Yeah.
have time to get too caught up in the thing. So
Well,
get
you just
involved.
watch
If you
us
really
here.
want to make a difference, stop
Right.
watching the politics and get involved in politics. Either run for office, whether it be school board, whether
Yeah.
it be your strata council, whether it be
Oh
whatever.
my God.
Get involved
Strata.
because if you want to control the future of your life, then you need to get involved. I train wannabe politicians,
Talk
and
about that.
I have this thing called the Campaign University, the campaignuniversity.com, where you can learn how to be a politician. It's agnostic. There's no, I don't care what
Party
he,
lines.
I
It's
want good people
nonpartisan.
to run for office because
Yeah.
the cream rises to the top. We want the more good people who run, the more good people will be in office, the more good politics we'll have, and the more
Yeah.
we'll have as a nation. So for those kids out there, get involved.
That's a good idea. Not for me. That's our first lunch that we ever had. We sat down and you said, ever thought about running for mayor? And I'm like, what?
Anything.
Yeah.
There's a council position available, Jody.
Can you imagine me in a council meeting? I'm
Yes.
way too passionate about these things. I'd be like, why are we wasting our time with this garbage? Let's get to what matters. And everybody else would be like, well, that's not the way it works. And I'd be like, I hate this place.
You
No.
sound like you want to drain the swamp. What are you saying?
Yeah. Sound like George-Affleck. No.
You'd only be 7 years of that.
I'm glad to do this with you every single Thursday. Make sure you like and subscribe, comment, share with your friends. If you want to like tap out of the news cycle, we will keep you up to speed on the kitchen table things that matter to you. And that's our goal, right? To try and bring that nonpartisan sort of vibe to the table. We often disagree, very much learn from each other, and then are always friends. And I appreciate you, George.
And you have
And we
a
find
relaxing week
And we're going
ahead.
to follow each other on that crazy platform that is Twitter at George.
Underscore
Affleck, George_Affleck. I am at Jody Vance. For now, I might have to change my last name. At Jody Vance, Jody with a Y. Oh my God. Yeah, I'll be making dinner reservations. I'll be like, I had a reservation for 2 for Jody Vance. And they'll be like, what? Secret Service is coming.
Cool. All right. Good luck with that. Bye.